Hey there, welcome. This is The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Thank you. Good to see you, too. Well, every election season is silly season. Every presidential election season, things kind of get out of control and people start being hyperbolic and hyperventilating and blowing things out of proportion. And this year is no different. However, the histrionics seem to be turned up even more so than normal. If you want to know why and understand why when you turn on the TV or some other radio stations, why people can go see the exact same thing going on in the world and come to a completely different conclusion, the man I lean on to explain this and rationalize it is my good friend Evan Sayet, who's back on The James Show. Welcome back, author and comedian Evan Sayet.
Hey, James. Thank you for having me again.
All right. The one thing that I noticed frustrated so many of my listeners and my friends and fellow radio colleagues is earlier this week, Trump's bloodbath comments, the way, they were said over the weekend, the way they were initially reported, only Hitler and Stalin and people like that say bloodbath. And then it was matched with almost immediately, Grabian comes out with a montage of all these people that were condemning Trump for saying bloodbath, using the term bloodbath. And so if it's that obvious of a setup, if it's that obvious of a lie, why do they still persist with it, Evan?
Well, first of all, they persist with it because they have nothing else. These are not stupid people. They are simply people who do not have fact and reason with which to back up their ideology and their claims. I remember going back, maybe it was 2015. No, it had to be earlier when John McCain was running. And Sarah Palin, it was discovered, was targeting certain districts. And she used the word targeting, which would then lead to bloodshed because this hyperbole, you have to understand that the political left is not making a case in good faith. They know when they say bloodbath and then they say Hitler and they say everybody who disagrees with them is Hitler. They know that they're not making an honest argument. They are simply engaging in the demagoguery of what the political left does in lieu of having actual fact and reason on their side.
Yeah, and I have seen it has been applicable, your book and your work and your speeches and whatnot, on whenever something like this happens, there's a lot of people who are left scratching their heads. How do they come away with this? Whereas I knew that they were going to do this, I can already go ahead and go to step 2 instead of scratching my head saying, how do they come to this conclusion by seeing the exact same evidence? And the next example I wanted to bring up to you, Evan, was the reaction to SB 4, because one of the reactions to the immigration bill here in Texas that's being challenged in the courts, the Supreme Court talked about it earlier this week, is that it allows Texas law enforcement to enforce immigration laws. And the concern from some people, Evan, is that this might discriminate against people based on their nationality. Well, Evan, duh. All immigration law has one and only one job: discriminate against people for their nationality. But still, they go out and make the argument.
Indeed, and this is why they are in favor of open borders. Borders, by their very definition, discriminate. They say on this side of the line, these laws apply. On this side of the line, these laws apply. And because the key to understanding the political left is that in order to eliminate discrimination, they have opted to become utterly indiscriminate. They are not. It's an interesting word, discrimination. I don't know if I said this on your show last time I was on, but it is one of the few words in the English language where the first two definitions in the dictionary are diametrically opposed and mutually exclusive. One definition of discrimination is the use of your intellect and experience to be able to recognize small differences between seemingly similar things. As in, she's a discriminating shopper. She can go in and see the difference between these various pocketbooks and, using her intellect and experience, pick out the better one. Right? The other definition of discrimination is the rejection of your intellect and experience and the inability to see differences, such as in all black people look alike or all white people are. And so in order to eliminate the evils of discrimination, the political left has eliminated discriminating thought. They do not see the difference between discriminating thought and the evils of discrimination.
Well, and then it goes to the extreme here. The bottom caption on MSNBC, as you were talking, says, tracing parallels between Trump's GOP loyalists and enablers that led to Germany's Third Reich. Why do they always go to Hitler with this stuff?
Well, because Hitler's crime was that he discriminated, all right? And Trump's followers' crime is that they discriminate. Trump's followers discriminate between illegal aliens and legal immigrants. Trump's followers discriminate between hardworking people and people on drugs or the home. The effort to discriminate between right and wrong, good and evil, better and worse, truth and lies,
men and women. Well, you can add men and women to that now.
Absolutely, men and women, those who accomplish through grades and through hard work, and those who are slothful. The only way to eliminate the evils of discrimination is to eliminate all discriminating thought. Well, Hitler engaged in discrimination. Trump and his followers engage in discriminating thought. That makes them one and the same. The only way to not be like Hitler is to not discriminate at all.
So if you've been so good at predicting, what was going to happen from the time I came across you about 15 years ago up to now, I like asking you, what do you see is going to happen if you follow through with this theory? And about, was it a year or two ago? I was on a different network. You said, look out, because coming up, they're going to try and normalize two things that I thought were crazy at the time. Number one, cannibalism. And, oh, my God, Evan, we've seen cannibalism in the news this year, especially with Haiti. And number two, bestiality. And I haven't really seen that one ramping up yet, but I've known you long enough that I'm on the watch for that.
Oh, indeed. There is no end except utter indiscriminateness. So to discriminate between eating an animal and eating a human being is like Hitler. Hitler discriminated. That's the evil of discrimination. Ultimately, there's not allowed to be the recognition of a difference, of a meaningful difference between anything. And I'm surprised that I didn't also mention pedophilia in my...
Well, you did that in like 2012, so that one's already come true.
Yeah. Right. Indeed, because if there is no difference between the child and the adult, then what is the moral argument? What is the argument against pedophilia? And you already see them softening the ground by now calling them minor attracted.
Shut up. Oh, that's so gross. All right, Evan, say it. The guy listening to you is intrigued. I'm going to tell him to try and buy your books or go to your websites. Where do you point him in that direction if he wants to know more of you?
You know what? Let's go straight to Amazon.com. I really would like them to buy my latest book, which is the third in an unintended but nonetheless real trilogy that all goes back to in order to eliminate discrimination, the modern left, now called the woke, have eliminated the ability to discriminate. Stinking itself has become a hate crime.
All right, so we're going to talk about Amazon next. Can you hold through like 4 minutes on the break here? Because you're having a little bit of a battle with Amazon, and I think the guy listening to us needs to know about it. So we'll continue with Evan Sayet coming up on The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP. Who knows what this song is about? Don't tell anybody. Who knows? Uh-huh. Sinner. We're talking with Evan Sayet. He's my guest. He is a comedian, an author. And which one would you consider first? Are you a comedian first or an author first now?
Well, let's start with the fact that I no longer even call myself a comedian. I call myself a satirist, because a satirist is a comedian who doesn't have to be that funny. So I've taken a little bit of pressure off myself. But I try to keep them separate, but I like being a thoughtful pundit, a thoughtful political philosopher, let's say. Let's call me that, a political philosopher.
Okay, so I have your first book, Kindergarten of Eden, How the Modern Liberal Thinks, and this is the great book for you to understand why your sister or your roommate or your friend's wife or whoever it is thinks that the way that they do. How do they come to all these horrible conclusions, given that you guys are looking at the same information? Then there was a kid's book, which was still pretty good. I got it too. But the next one was The Woke Supremacy. Now, your new book just came out, already causing problems, on Amazon. Explain the battles you have going on with this.
Well, let's begin with the fact that it is the culmination, and as I said before the break, unintentional. But see, the problem with having come up with the unified theory of leftism is once I've explained everything in the first book, where do I go from there? But as time went on and what I called in the first book modern liberalism metastasized into the woke supremacist movement, and then ultimately I came down to the big question of everything, and that's atheism. And why is it that when God's existence cannot be scientifically known one way or the other, whether we were created or luck created us, it's beyond our ability to science. Yet the political left swears that it's a scientific fact that there is no God. So why do they do that? And again, I discovered because God is the very starting point of discrimination. If you eliminate the recognition of right and wrong, good and evil, beauty and ugliness, then you've eliminated the ability to discriminate. And that is ultimately the leftist goal. So the problem that I've been having, because previous books didn't run into this problem as much, and that is I'm being censored, or not I'm being censored so much, though I am. Readers who have purchased the book read it and felt compelled to write a review. And every review thus far has been 5-star. But there are very, very few reviews compared to the literally 1,000 for my previous book. And for this book, there's about 12 at the moment. And time and again, people are writing to me saying, I tried to post a review and they were rejected for not meeting community standards. And I would read through these incredibly innocuous reviews. And nonetheless, Amazon would not allow them to be posted.
So what were the reviews saying? Things like men can't have babies? Oh, my goodness, Evan, that's hate speech.
In general, anything that spoke on behalf, and especially when they tied atheism to wokeism and recognized that militant atheism, that is the aggressive attempt to outlaw belief across an entire society, is part and parcel of wokeism. Those reviews just they wouldn't post them.
So do we have any idea of how many of your reviews have been rejected by Amazon?
Well, in order for somebody to reach out to me, a stranger to reach out to me, that you have to assume there's at least 5 or 10 for each one who did, and I would say at least 10 or 15 have reached out to me. So
wow.
150.
Yeah, because
right?
they would have to go make the comment, and then they have to wait, and then they have to come back at a later time and check through all the comments to make sure theirs is not there, and then they'd have to take the additional step of tracking you down and finding out what your email address or Facebook or whatever, and then typing you the note. Yeah, so you've had 15 of those?
Yeah, indeed. And another way to know is that my previous book, The Woke Supremacy, has something like 900 plus, they don't call them reviews, they have another word for it, rating.
Right.
It has 900 separate ratings. And for this book, especially given that I have done the publicity, you know, I'm on with you, I'm on national radio, national television, etc. Should, even if they were bad reviews, you know, if all those people bought my previous books and reviewed my previous books, if even a percentage of them had bought and commented on this book, that there'd be a lot more than the 12 that there are.
Wow, must be a pretty good book. This is a big deal for authors, though, because the number of ratings and the number of reviews and the number of times someone puts a 5-star on it, these are things that play into the algorithm. So when people are searching for political books or books on atheism or books on religion or books on politics or books on the news, yours will pop up higher in the search and then therefore get more notoriety and be more popular. And they're really squishing you and putting a boot to your throat by doing this.
Indeed, and also the personal algorithm that one has that, you know, look, I've got a core following like you who recognize that I'm not just another author. I have something special, and there are people who will, no matter what, buy whatever I do. But then there's other people who are coming across it who look and they see that this book on atheism, and there are 10,000 books on atheism, only has 12 reviews over the last 3 months or whatever.
Yeah.
It also helps one's personal decision, their own algorithm as to whether this book is worth it or not. So yeah, it's
huge.
It's pretty disconcerting.
All right, Evan Sayet, Sayet. Last time you were on, I got a Facebook message. How do you spell his last name? Sayet. Thank you very much, Evan Sayet, author and satirist. Evan Sayet.